Yanda Vanzo Sangeri Bada Shasundem, the Orajavanji then Jamajo on the Vikalojo. Lana Meba Lada Menanje them by Sanjay Benja Shajato Bala Sas and Rocha Joseph. Demba Jumden and the Shinsha Pandajan Banyana Bazo Vesan. Rivada Shazun them by the Orajavanji then Jamajo. Kalo Java Lana Meba Lada Menanje them by Sanjay. Benjawa Shaja to Bala, Chazano should do Japsu. Demba Jumden and the Shinsha Pandajan Banyana. Zobe Sanjay Rivada Shazun them by the Orajavanji. Jiden Jamba Jivun Devil, Kalo Jiva, Lana Meva, Lada Menanje. Sanjay Jumden, the Benjawa Shaja to Bala, Chazano should do Japsu. Demba Jumden, the Shinsha Pandajan Banyana, Zobe Sanjay Rivada. Shazun Demba, the Orajavan Jiden Jamba Jivun Devil, Kalo Jiva. Lana Meva, Lada Menanje, Demba Sanjay Jumden. Benjawa Shaja to Bala, Chazano should do Japsu. Kanze Ganyan Zowa Chatamase, Sajan de no combat. Manage then de no churches, Teze Keba Jama Chahas. Namda Gunga Chodo Sozama, Yesheja to Seja, Tabaji de Sunama. Tabaji de Sunama Meva Gumbo Chuni Jama Chahas, and Senja de Bajamenta. Sendon Dawa Jala Chahas, Zelon de Regina, Seva Suma Jenyaman, Chenja Jama Chahas. Gumbo to Jeshe and Bottom Jejim, the Mabo Sonomi. The Shinjala Chahas and Motabin de Shachavan, giving us on the children to the majority of Washington, Chahas and no China, Lava Dala. Shingadamba and then again, the Maya Chahas and Dibachi and Mrs. Gavaban Sobaja, Rangasim, the Yonso Tim, Tennis and Jetamai, Karmara Rima, you must have a sugar, the melon, Jetam. The Shishan on the Data, Sonam Diet, and Jesaba, you command on the Kinjan. Gadana Shiva love to be civil and
to the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, know of the word, supreme light of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the shelter of land, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, know of the word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the shelter of land, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, know of the word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the shelter of land, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans you are born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With the pure body's form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 words, we know the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 words are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, mirage, a flammable lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain recoverable seeing, subdue the four faults, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje jono zoje jono no chanju ba do na ne ja zo. Nagen je zoje ba sono je rola pe je sanje do. Sanje jono zoje jono no chanju ba do na ne ja zo. Nagen je zoje ba sono je rola pe je sanje do. Sanje jono zoje jono no chanju ba do na ne ja zo. Nagen je zoje ba sono je rola pe je sanje do. Sanje jono zoje jono no chanju ba do na ne ja zo. Nagen je zoje ba sono je rola pe je sanje do.
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Kede Pumba Daya Na Jadan Chuba Jano Jura Kede Pumba Namdeji Pumba Tinya Beba Yuwa Danya Yuwa Maya Dagi Yuwa Dada Dagi Shiva Jira Manje Manje Zime Jira Manje Manje Zime Ka Taya Yuwa Manje Manje Zime Ba Kanga Tonga Medo Dada Chira Nyadama Dada Dagi Yuwa Nyawa Nema Gaji Jaya Teze Benda Yuwa Leda Yuwa Seba Tara Leda Yuwa Teda Jira Juba Naya Dama Nija Kava Yuwa Daga Chija Dajija Dame Chija Dama Yuwa Sanja Dama Dame Game Chija Daya Juba Shawa Dama Daya Simchi Juya Dama Majeba Dama Kava Chunya Nyame Dada Song Tamje Yanda Yanda Me Yanda Yanda Ma Yinye Yanda Me Me Yanda Me Tende Sanje Chedemo Shene Shime Shiva Dama Juba Nunja Ma Juba Nando Me Tenta Deme Tende Tende Sinya Do Kala Tende Ka Juba Tende Rishi Tende Tele Shema Ma Yin Shede Shishime Dama Sanje Cheden Kanam Temba Tusin Juba Tunje Manya Tade Me Sheba Manya Dama Zozanja Dama Shuji Nye Dama Jese Sanje Jishi Temba Mela Rabde Jen Dada Shua Daba Sheshe Baru Dushima Chuje Kangiya Duzi Nyesuna Tawa Taji Pome Cheta Me Shuna Duzi Kodum Tela Chase Today, now once again, I'm going to read from the stanzas number 8. So stanzas number 8, it says that if cessation happened through annihilations, not by fully understanding the creation, how would there be to experience it? How could there be such destroyed subject? Now, so there's a kind of, the concept, or there's a two kind of understanding how the individual, two kind of understandings, nirvana, and how the individual attained nirvana. So when you understand so the person, the individual who understands the nirvana, the meaning of that, and you will understand what is the nature of the nirvana. So now kind of here, the essential school, like Sotanthic school, mind-only school, particularly, I think it looks like Sotanthic school here, the opponents, So they think, so nirvana is attained. So nirvana means, first nirvana means the end of cyclic existence, end of birth, or having ended the birth in samsara. So having ended in birth in samsara, so there's if this is the nirvana, there's the two things, right? So having ending the birth in nirvana, if this birth in nirvana that you're going to end, or you have ended, is the birth is in the future. So in the future, then while the individual, the person who is alive, they can attain nirvana, because you have ended the birth in nirvana in the futures. No more birth in cyclic existence. So, in the sutra, and the Buddha, when he described the nirvana is, he says, Dungende maluba sebas. The condition of suffering is, totally exhaust, and no more coming, the birth in cyclic existence. And nubrajuvas, nubrajuva means total dissolutions or dissolving the existing of the condition of suffering. So when Buddha said that, and nirvana is this, how this is like, this condition of suffering has total exhaust, no more, coming of the birth in cyclic existence, and total dissolutions or the dissolving, the total dissolutions of conditional suffering. So, and this line which is interpreted in a different way, saying that this condition of suffering is totally exhaust, no coming of the birth in cyclic existence, means not only the present conditional has ceased to exist, it also ceased to exist of the birth in samsara in the future. And that total absence is like a, dissolving everything, kind of evaporate, total evaporations of the conditioned suffering. So now this was once heard by the school of thoughts, Buddhist school of thought, some of the, particularly the Sonatic school, saying that, which means the nirvana has to attain, nirvana has to attain after total exhaustions of the condition of suffering, means until you are not dying, you haven't had attained the nirvana. So the nirvana has to be, attained through total exhaustions of the condition of suffering, including present and the futures. So now the question, the big arguments happen. If this is the nirvana, so then, like for example, if you try to remain in the moment that, if you try to remain in the moment or remain in the day that Wednesday has ended and Thursday hasn't come yet. Thursday is not going to be happen. Wednesday is ended. Which day is that? So what is the day that you have experienced? So when you say this is not possible, if Wednesday is ended and Thursday is not coming at all, and then what is the day that, So this is how the Sonatic school says, exactly like that, There is no Wednesday, there is no Thursday coming, which means there is no conditional suffering in the present time. Present conditional suffering has ceased. The future conditional suffering is no more coming. So that is not just, it is nirvana within, within the discontinuation of the form and consciousness. So, nirvana, the state of nirvana in the discontinuation of form and the consciousness. So then automatically the question comes, and who is there to experience that nirvana? There is no form, there's no form, there's no consciousness. What is the person is doing there? How he existing to experience the nirvana? So that becomes very kind of big argument, or kind of like it's uncertainties. So you cannot really prove that this is something achievement, because when there is achiever, is totally ceased to exist, and who has achieved, who experienced that? So this is why I'm saying, if nirvana is attained through the annihilation, not by understanding the creations. So nirvana is mainly attained through non-existing of or discontinuation of form in consciousness. So if this is the way, if this is the attained nirvana, and what is the relevant? The wisdom realizing emptiness. So then, if the wisdom realizing emptiness is destroying the continuation of the form in consciousness, then, while you're alive, you gain the wisdom realizing emptiness. It has some kind of evidence this is destroying your form or destroying your perceptions. Highly realized person, maybe some of them have no leg, no hand. So, because his wisdom is too powerful, so they cut all limbs, or some of the skin is no more there. So now saying, while you are alive, when you gain the wisdom realizing emptiness, and it is only benefits to the mind to experience the peace. It's not destroying the mind, it is not destroying the form. And why? That wisdom realizing emptiness, at the end, to attain the nirvana, why it has to destroy the continuation of the form in consciousness. So that's the big, questions. So then, then the Siddhanta school might, ask the Prasangika school, and what is your interpretations of the Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching that says total exhaustions of the conditional suffering, this conditional suffering, present conditional suffering, and no more happening of the next birth in samsara in next life. And that is total dissolutions or the dissolving, or seva, nubas, I think. Nuba means like sunset. When there's total sunset, there's no sun and no light become. So it's like a body lamp. The final body lamp is that ended and it becomes nothing. So how do you really interpret that? And then the Nagarjuna says that, so what the delusions, the condition of the suffering, the conditional suffering, the main cause is two, karma and afflictive emotion are the delusions, two. So the delusions or the afflictive emotions derive from the misconceptions, right? the misconceptions. So, karma and ignorance of the misconceptions. Misconception that grasping the intrinsic property in every phenomena. So, what brings the grasping of self, I am, that is vividly, almost like, very vivid and very, solidly existing, seeing the solid existing of I am. So then says, because we see, because the way we grasp on I is because we have grasping on the body, feeling, perceptions, So something that's single unit, independent unit, that you have very solid foundation for the existing of the self, I am. So as long as there is the grasping at my body, my feeling, my perceptions, my emotions, my thought, and there's always the grasping of I am. So Nagarjuna says that. So, when the Buddha says, the nirvana, that you attain nirvana through total, the exhaustions of the conditioned suffering in the present, means you have totally eradicated the grasping of the conditional suffering as the body, feeling, perceptions, emotions, and thought. So it's all the misconceptions on the aggregate body, feeling, perceptions, emotion, and thought is totally seized. That also makes it cease to existing of I am. So seeing the solid independent I is, total exhaust, total disappear. Is like almost now 100% sunset. There's nothing, Is final, it is end of final battle lamp. So, this kind of nirvana that you seize or you experience that in emptiness. That emptiness is that kind of emptiness that you can see nirvana in, while you are alive. So in the state of that wisdom, or from the point of view from that the wisdoms, there is no any conventional realities that exist by their own essence. So all misconceptions and the cause of sufferings totally exhaust, dissolve, disappear, evaporate, and no more coming. So Prasangis goes, that's what Buddha meant. Nirvana is, nirvana is not like, discontinuation of the form and consciousness, So that kind of nirvana is experience within that emptiness, through, only through, realization emptiness. So realization emptiness means, seeing everything, form, sound, smell, taste, textures, and the general conceptualize the kind of realities, conceptual realities. Maybe I would say, what are the conceptualized reality? Nation, country, cause and effect, relations of cause and effect, and generally, particularly, specific, and universal. These are reality that is only perceived through the conceptualization, through the concept. So they only merely exist in the face of that concept, language, and language. So it's the creation of the letters, that, and then the construct creations like color, sound, smell, taste, textures is not conceptually constructed. It is, elementally constructed, or is a faculty constructed. Is, so the I think we have many times we have discussed on that, like how the color existence. Color has no firm data to be existing, but it is constructed or created through the contact of, generally maybe say outer and inner in the contact of outer and inner element, So, and if you can also add on that the consciousness, consciousness and inner element like sense faculties, and outer elements like outer elements that we says, if outer elements that you are thinking when you say outer elements, if you are thinking the wind, air, moistures, the heat, these are part of the textures, is the tactilities. So something that is not creation of body sense faculty, if there is any element, that is the potential element, like molecule particles, So the contact of that, the consciousness projects, creates the color, sound, smell, taste, textures. So the object of sense perceptions do not have any essence to be existing by their own. Rather, it is created, happen to be existing. So that understanding of the dependent relativity is understanding, and you can, you can bring to understand the absence of intrinsic property. They don't have any intrinsic property. They do not have any essence. They means objects. They have no any essence to be existing by their own. So which means only possible for them to be existing, in the relations, relations and the contact of many things together. It's hard to say, in what condition the color have manifest. And we say, generally, roughly, we say space, light, and sense faculty, and the form that light can hit on, right? So, roughly, this is and each of them, the form the light can hit, when the light hits on the form, reflects to the sense faculty, and with that, the distance, the space, So if something happened to as a color, so now they're saying this color is conditioned or it is constructed, created through, all these factors together. But each of these factors, the form, light, space, and eye sense faculty, is not the basis. It's not the basis for the color. Color do not land on the sense faculty, do not land on the light, do not land on the form. So it is not going to land on anything. It is not the property of light. It is not the property of the sense faculty, not the property of the form, but it exists with this. So sometimes people says, there is no improper data, and it creates the perfect phenomena. So now the Chandrakirti and the Chandrakirti and the Nagarjuna, in their traditions, So nirvana is not the end of something. Nirvana is not the discontinuation of form. Nirvana is not the discontinuation of the consciousness. So then people may think, nirvana is maybe it's not maybe it's not a discontinuation of the form and consciousness, but for sure it is the discontinuation of the afflictive emotion and the karma. So it seems like, but so then the question here is, if you think nirvana is discontinuation of the karma and afflictive emotions, so now say, magical illusions, the cessation of magical illusions, do you think is discontinuation of the illusion? Illusion is, from the beginning, it does not intrinsically exist. So it just disappears disappears because of the what construct, so the condition, the cosmic condition that construct the illusions is no longer inactive. So the illusions disappears. It's not you have abandoned, you have eradicated the illusions. So in this way, the karma and afflictive emotion is like magical illusions. Anger, attachments. So they don't have any intrinsic property to go and battle with them and abandon and defeat them. They're just, it happens because of their certain illusions. So again says now, and then what is the nirvana? It's not abandoned, meaning something intrinsic property. And what is the nirvana? So nirvana is sense of experience, sense of taste that you have find as a cessation, freedom from the suffering, and that the experiencing of the freedom from the suffering is sometimes we call plentiful or abundant or perfect peace, that peace that remains with you forever. So that's kind of here is nirvana. So that nirvana is only experience, is not experienced by pushing something, cutting something, negating something, eradicating something. It's just simply experience. The taste of that is found in when you realize that everything is not intrinsically exist. So in the emptiness, you find, abundant good. In the emptiness, you find pacifications. You find freedom. So that emptiness is, that emptiness, that nature is now saying this is with every phenomena, with color, with sound, with smell, with taste, with textures, with human being, with animal, with, trees, and everything. So the emptiness is within everything, by who can, consciously is aware of that reality, not by tree and rock. Although they're empty, they do not have any awareness. There's no potential for awareness, So, and other than that, every sentient being has the potential, has the seed, for the awareness of the ultimate truth of the phenomena. So, so that's the one thing, this is why they say, if nirvana is attained through the annihilation, then, it should not be through the understanding of phenomena. But still, many people, lower school thinks that nirvana, the cessations, liberations, freedoms. So it has to be, you kind of, there's some kind of the persistently, you are just insisting that, it has to be by pushing something, by, removing something, So this is why the many school, even the Buddhist school of thought, thinking that, when we say the past of the Saturday, past of the Tuesday, the past of the Tuesday means no more what has Tuesday which is past, that very Tuesday which has passed, no more coming. So no more coming, the existing of the Tuesday is ended. So in many, like Buddhist school and many other, generally people think past of the Tuesday means end of the Tuesday. So, this is the part of definition of the Tuesday. It is not, the end of the Tuesday. If this is the end of the Tuesday, Tuesday has ended, and then, the Thursday, which is always comes after the Tuesday. So therefore, the Thursday is Wednesday is the continuation of the Tuesday. So if the Tuesday is ended, and there is no continuation of the Tuesday, there is no Wednesday. So, which means when the Tuesday passes, it's not the ended. That's called disintegrations. That is called changes. Change and the disintegrations, death, impermanence are not, equivalent with non-existing or discontinuations. So the Prasangika school says, when we say the past of the Tuesday is still a conditional thing. Past of the Tuesday is conditional thing. It is the thing. So, therefore, the futures also is a conditional. It is a thing. Future is a thing. Past is a thing. So therefore, 3 times are the thing. 3 times are the reality. 3 times are the phenomena. 3 times is a knowable object. Is a conceivable object. So is a conceivable, knowable, therefore they exist. So if they exist, you cannot define with non-existing. So similarly, the nirvana is the past of the cyclic existence. It is a change of the cyclic existence. Cyclic life to the non-cyclic. Cycling that stops. Cycle the ring, the wheel that is broken, now no longer, turning. So that is the change of the cyclic life. The change of the cyclic life, cycling, which turned into no more cycling, is, one we should understand is nirvana. Seed, which is no more a seed, now it is a sprout. Milk, there is no more milk, it is the yogurt. So it is not equivalent to non-existing, or it is the end of something. So then this is how, nirvana means, liberation of the nirvana means it is not independent unit from the cyclic life. It's not independent unit because the yogurt is not independent unit from the milk that turned into the yogurt. Sprout is not independent unit from the seed, which is now turned into the sprout.
So if you understand that, so then you understand nirvana is, existing of the nirvana is because existing of the second existence. So nirvana is not single unit, independent, not single independent single unit from the second existence. Therefore, there is no perceptions that sees the nirvana is something independent single unit. But there is the perceptions that can experience, the nirvana in single unit, because there is the moment of the consciousness that is perceiving only nirvana, only emptiness, only nirvana, not second existence. That does not mean nirvana is independent single unit. So there is when we say, when we say leaf, like tree, the leaf of the tree. So the word that expresses the leaf is, expressing the leaf, in single unit, without, explicitly expressing that the branches or the tree or the trunk. So we express that one singular word, then express the leaf is only expressing the leaf. That does not mean the leaf is independently exist. So there is the moment, the consciousness in the meditative equipoise, experiencing the nirvana, that is only experience nirvana, not perceiving, imagining, conceiving any conventional reality. So they say subjectively you can independently, experience nirvana. The nirvana do not exist independent from the samsara. Eye consciousness, when I look at the braid, is independent from smell, taste, and textures, only perceiving the color. That does not mean the color of the braid has independently exist from the smell of the braid, the taste of the braid, the texture of the braid. So the Prasangika school says, direct perceptions, direct experience of the nirvana, because it says direct experience of the nirvana, it choose and meditate on only that state of nirvana. Therefore, it only experience that emptiness, not perceiving, experiencing other than that emptiness. So now another argument is if nirvana is not independent single unit from samsara, so this is the question. Yeah. If nirvana is not independent single unit from the samsara, so how the arhat, how it is the arhat, they attain nirvana, freedom from samsara. So freedom from samsara. So when we talk about individual, once he was within the samsara, now he attained nirvana, means his samsaric identity is ceased to exist. Right? His samsaric nature, samsaric perceptions, samsaric emotions is ceased to exist, no more existing. So that is the kind of arhat. The arhat, when he attained the nirvana, so he is no longer part of the samsara. But in his mind, or But in the reality, nirvana is, identity of the nirvana is very much depending on single existence. So, by definitions, is defined separately or the differently is not the valid reason to constitute they are different. So, so this was always this was always kind of big, challenging for the analyst. So when we talk about the space, try to define the space, and when you are able to define the space, and the moment that you define the space, so because you have particular and specific characteristics through that, you have defined the space. So when you define the space, that is a different from an obstructive phenomena. So the characteristic through that you define space, that characteristic is not there with obstructive phenomena. So therefore, the individual analyst people think, oh, I find space in independent. So then many intelligent people think, oh, there's independent time, there's independent space. When there is nothing in this world, oh, time and space is there because they have found, the space and time are independent because they find independent, characteristic or independent characteristic that defines the space and the time. So, for example, if I say my body is impermanent, my body is the product of cause and effect. Now, if I find one particular characteristics, that defines the body as being product, and another characteristic, I can define this body as impermanent. So two different characteristics. One, characteristics that defines my body is the product. So that characteristic is not going to define body as impermanent. And another characteristic that defined impermanence, not the product. So does that mean I have half of my body is product, half of my body is, impermanence? Or impermanence of the body and the product of the body is two independent? Because I have defined the product through independent characteristic. I have defined the impermanence of the body through independent characteristic. So I think this was quite, always for the analyst, always in blind spot. So that confuses, So when whatever they kind of, through experiment or theoretically, prove something, and when you explain that, you kind of assume I'm explaining such finding is something intrinsically exists, independently exists. So if this kind of in this way, if the arhat has, if arhats also follow like ordinary people analyze, if arhat finds, oh, nirvana that I attained is defined through one particular, characteristics, which is not the basis to define the single existence. So nirvana is independent from samsara. So what if the arhat start thinking about it, and the arhat thinks that I'm totally different person, I'm not the person that who is, who is once under the influence of the afflictive emotions. So now this independent nature that once he, pops in his mind, then that independent is owned by independent I am. So then he is, inevitably the grasping of the self. I am the supreme liberated being. So how is not possible this individual arhat not generate in the future attachment and aversions? So, and also, you as ordinary people, as ordinary people, when you are hungry, you're not eating, you haven't eaten for a while, and you are hungry. And so that I am hungry, there's one characteristic that, that very much defining right now in the present I am, which is hungry. So that characteristic is, once you have eaten, that characteristic is, disappears for a while. So do you still think I'm totally different from one who is hungry? So this kind of, so because the delusions is always, delusion always find their way and sneak in whenever there is misunderstanding, misconceptions. So there's a small hole, the mice, and they start coming in, So this is like when there is open misconception, open space for the misconceptions, and it is, it is inevitable that not going to attach, So it's you're going to attach and anger, jealous. It's naturally it comes because the unshakable relationship, the cause and effect, ignorance in emotion is unshakable relationship, like smoke, unshakable relation with fire. So so then here is now still many of the schools, essential school, when the Prasanga school explain that way, it's the whole logic is making sense to them, but still they think that if nirvana is not the samsara, nirvana is not the samsara, and why not nirvana is independent from samsara? It's a totally different time, totally different event, totally different experience. So why not is independent? So and then the so that's the kind of still there's some kind of ambiguities. It is just like it just comes up all the time. How many times you are logically, convincing to yourself, but still from the habituations of having doubt and the ambiguities, it naturally comes. So now another thing is, if once the nirvana is cessation of the suffering, no suffering to no more suffering. So how no more suffering, no suffering, and not no more birth in samsara. Samsara is some kind of negation element, right? So negation element, unborn, unborn, no suffering. is some kind of negation element. So when you say there is intuitions or the direct experience, direct perceptions of nirvana, this, how can the consciousness directly experience, no suffering, no birth and second existing? How can directly experience? So I can say, I can directly perceive this table, I can directly perceive the orange color, I can directly perceive the blue and green color of the leaf. But how no birth is, how can you directly experience? So if anything that is, directly experienced by any subject, or something that is obvious to any direct perceptions, it has to be entity by itself. And then it says, like you can meditate on the body as impermanent, contemplating, and then you may, eventually you may gain, intuitions or the direct realization as a body as impermanent. So body is impermanent. So the body and impermanent. So there is some kind of, their body is something vividly out there, and then understands every parts of the body, what makes the body alive, all the elements you analyze, you can understand. Now it's meaning of impermanence so clear and so vivid to you, but still the basis is out there. So that you can say, I have directly experienced the body as impermanent. But how? No more coming, the birth and the second existence, no more coming in, not going to be born in samsara, not going to be born in next life in samsara, is how can you directly experience? How can you directly perceive that? So then says, in the mundane, in the generally people says, there's one person who is walking through maybe like the wilderness. So he was walking through the desert or very dry place. So he was thirsty, and he is also very tired, and he has to go to reach another place, another village. So because of he's thirsty and because of the weather, like at 2 o'clock, and the heat of the sun is so much that striking on the soil, and then the land is heat up, create the mirage, the long the mirage, because of the thirsty, and then he kind of projects, he sees that like big river. So so then he's think that, so how deep that river could be. So can I cross that? And then he saw the person, the man who is working on that field. He asked how deep that river is. Can I cross that river? And this person says, there is no water. So things that you see like water like is mirage. If you don't believe my word, you just go closer and you will directly experience my word. So, what does that mean is when you get closer to that mirage and he discover this is the mirage, this is not water. So at that time he directly experienced the person's word. No water he experienced. So that direct experience of no water in that place, So there is no water is independent. So no water experience is because of his word. There is no word, and he don't believe. Now he directly experienced no water. So, they're saying that no more coming next life, no more birth and cycle existing in the futures, or no more suffering coming. So that experience through his convincing right? His convincing perceptions, deep understanding without any doubt. Even there is no seed of the doubt in that what he is finding. So from that he kind of there is the convictions, there is certainty of no more birth and second existence. He was so convinced no more birth, there's no more cause of the suffering. There's no space to generate any cause of the suffering. So there's no space for the generating any afflictive emotions. So this is what the Prasangika school says. It's not no birth is independently exists there and you just come across and you understand. So no birth is understands, realize from total observing in that space of the emptiness. So there is no any clue, any probability, any possibility, any feasible of generating the cause of birth and second existence. So that is the answer. Is someone who is think that how can you directly experience end of the birth and second existence? How can you directly experience no more suffering is coming? So there's a two thing, so this is the, there's a two way to understand, from the two aspect to understand the cessation of the suffering. And because you understand there is no suffering at all, because, before you have experienced the suffering, before you have experienced suffering with anger, you have experienced suffering with attachment, you have experienced suffering with jealousy, pride, belligerence, spites, all of them. Because at that time, you see there's many reasons to be angry. There's many conditions that, that is allowing me, giving me a right to be react. So all the conditions, all the object that is allowing you to, or, you're compelled to react with that. So object is totally ceased to exist. There is no any object, there's no any condition, there's no any reason, So that can, that allows you to react any uncomfortable, perceptions. Because your mind is totally settled, observing, equipoise in that total absence, total space of the absence of intrinsic existence. So that's the, I think, you may think that, so now I have said before, now saying that there's two questions. If the question is about how the individual can attain nirvana, how individual can attain nirvana. So what is that nirvana that individual has attained? And then the very nature of the nirvana. So first, how individual attain nirvana, and then there's the true school of thought, and some think that, individual who attain nirvana means the first, to be in that nirvana, you have to eradicate, or you have to discontinue all the consciousness and the form. And the Prasangika school says individual who attain nirvana is not necessarily through ending the continuity of consciousness in the form. So the individual who attain nirvana means his mind is being, before it was cloudy, now it is totally cloud free, right? It's just a state like that. It's just a change of something. There is no any ended. Right? Any physical things ended there. There's no substantial thing has ended. It just, first the visual is blurry, now it is so vivid, so clear, clarity comes. So nirvana, three individuals attain nirvana, and the individual no need to discontinue himself. So, yeah. Now when I read, maybe it makes sense to you. So I have laid out all the, ready to, cook. So stanza number 8, if cessations happen through annihilations, not by fully understanding the creations. So fully understanding of, the relativities. Who would be there, who would be there to experience it? If as annihilation is the nirvana, who would be there to experience it? How could there be such a destroyed subject? How could there be a liberations? How could there be a cessation of the suffering if there is no person? So then, that is the Nagarjuna's root text, the Chandrakirti's commentaries, saying that you think that the non-creation of the suffering, so you think that non-creation of the suffering means, the emptiness of the suffering, intrinsically no arising of the suffering, when all things are no longer perceived, in the emptiness, everything is no longer perceived, and every conventional reality, vanish like magical creations. So if this is not a nirvana, so it's not a nirvana. So Chandrakirti is saying, this is how you attain nirvana, in the emptiness, and everything's, dismantle, dissolve in emptiness. This is how you enter nirvana. She has a question. But rather, that nirvana is the subsequent. So you think this is not nirvana. Rather, nirvana is subsequent, after, vanishing or discontinuing, subsequent, non-creation of anything whatsoever. So if you think that nirvana is subsequently ending, discontinuing anything whatsoever, one such things as a form and so on. Form and so on means consciousness. Form and consciousness no longer possess substantial intrinsic identity, substantial nature, intrinsic identity. So the everything, because so the everything has ceased to exist and to be existing, so no longer existing, so which are, so what you have ended. So now the question here is, what you have ended or discontinued, what are those things that discontinue within the nirvana? So what is their nature? And this is, they think that, substantial nature. Your body is substantial nature. Your consciousness is substantially, existing, intrinsically exist. Your karma, afflictive emotions, everything is intrinsic property, but they are all kind of ended to be existing, in the face of the nirvana. So conditioned actions and addictions, if that were to be the case, then the nirvana would occur through process of, severing the continuum. So nirvana is like cutting all this, continuity of intrinsic phenomena. Intrinsic form in intrinsic consciousness, intrinsic karma, intrinsic afflictive emotions. Severing the continuum by destroying an intrinsic in the nature's identity of something, and it could not be something that come about through thoroughly understanding the creations. So now for sure, if there is any, cutting, all the intrinsic phenomena ending, if this is the case of the nirvana, then that is for sure it is not thoroughly understanding the conditioned phenomena. To this, the Buddhist realist may object, although we accept precisely this nirvana destructions, we are without fault. Now, so Chandrakirti asks this kind of question, then he says, we are without fault, but this is also, incorrect. So he says, I have no doubt this is the way, this is nirvana is, end of intrinsic body, intrinsic consciousness, intrinsic karma, intrinsic afflictive emotions. Everything that is previously intrinsically exists, because you attain nirvana and all discontinues. So this is like if those who seize the reality necessarily directly experience the cessations. From your perspective, without aggregates having ceased, just such cessations could not exist. Alternatively, when the aggregates have ceased, so now the question is, the argument, when the aggregates have ceased, since there would be no one there at all, there's no form they're continuing, there's no consciousness continuing, which means there's no basis for the person. No person is existing. How would directly experience that cessations? Who would? So if there is no such person in that nirvana, and who would directly experience that cessation? Since some persons Some persons, such as the noble Shariputra, exist at the time of seeing reality as long as there is continuum of the aggregates. So the Shariputra, while he is alive and he attained the nirvana, so he find the so he kind of directly experience no more the birth and cyclic existence, exhaustions of the all intrinsic property of the aggregates, and intrinsic property of aggregates in the futures. It is reasonable to say that cessation is directly experienced. So it's reasonable to say that Shariputra, without having died, he still experienced, nirvana. So that is one of the proof that the nirvana, to attain nirvana, you don't have to be turned into non-existence. Someone may also object at the time, what would that person be seeing in order to have the direct experience? Now this is the tricky question. At that time, what would that person is seeing in order to have direct experience? So you must be looking at something. What is that thing? It says it is. So if you say this is, you're seeing the nirvana in that emptiness, what is that emptiness that you directly experience? So if there is emptiness, objectively exists to be experienced by the direct perceptions. So now seeing in order to direct perception. So now this person is saying, this is like, for example, if someone says, I've seen the how's that? How's that? For example, if someone says, I've seen the end of the Tuesday, because I have seen, Tuesday is disintegrating, and I also see, after 12 o'clock in the night, 1 minute moves, and the Tuesday has ended. So the end of the Tuesday I experience because I have seen, Tuesday is passing. So then the question is, the past of the Tuesday is, how do you prove? How can you say it is the end of the Tuesday? So after the 12 o'clock in the midnight, it is not the continuation of the Tuesday. So if this is the continuation of the Tuesday, how can you say the Tuesday is ended? Right. So now here saying, if there's some kind of emptiness or nirvana that objectively exists, so, and then you says, it has no activity, it has no any form, no shape, no color, no smell, and it has nothing. So if this emptiness, the total absence of something, is something that directly experience. So direct experience means you have seen it, or you have direct experience, there's something objective there. So if there's no objective, how can that the emptiness or the nirvana is experienced by direct experience? So this is the question. So then for that, like Siddhantika school trying to explain answer to that questions. Let me explain, although the object of this insight is grasped at non-perceptually means is non-conceptually, So it's just directly experienced, grasped through non-conceptual or without a thought. It is nevertheless designated as a direct experience. Just simply saying the subject that experiences nirvana is non-perceptual, it is non-conceptual, because it's direct experience. Now this person, this school is saying, not trying to say the object that you have experienced is the direct experience. So the consciousness that experience the nirvana is the direct perceptions.
That's what Chandrakirti is saying.
This is not a Chandrakirti. Chandrakirti brings, let someone kind of, the question is someone also object at the time, what would that person be seeing in order to have a direct experience?
Right, that's what other school is asking Chandrakirti, or what the Prasangika school.
It's all Chandrakirti, he just created, he created,
right.
If someone says that, what is, at the moment of nirvana, so, at the moment of nirvana, what is that person is seeing, So seeing, what is he seeing is, so which means the question is, motivated, intended to kind of asking, there's no objective. In emptiness, there's nothing. And if there's nothing, how can you say it's a direct experience?
So they're saying that there must be something there.
Yeah, this person who is asking this question, he kind of, they presume that if there is something to directly experience, there must be something objective, And there's no objective, how can you say it's a direct experience? So, and then there's another person is trying to kind of answer to that questions.
Because right after that, Geshe is let me explain. So it sounds like Chandrakirti is replying back to that question.
Let me explain to Joseph. Yeah, Joseph is added this. Maybe he thought this. Let me experience it better. So now there's one person says, let me explain. Although the object of this insight, that direct realizations, the grasp and non-perception is, grasping means it is apprehending or knowing something non-conceptually, So non-conceptual, now he's describing on the subject side, he's not talking about the object, So nevertheless, designated as a direct experience through the knowledge of that object, that object obtained by the consciousness. So that's the one thing. So there's the one person says, trying to explain to that, answer to that questions, say, it is the nirvana is experienced by the direct perceptions or direct experience is, we are talking about the subject. The subject that experiences nirvana is direct perceptions, is not directly, explicitly saying there's something out there, objective, to be experienced directly. That nirvana state of mind, which is direct perceptions, is direct experience.
Like mind only schools.
The conscious in Siddhanta school says, what is the obvious and direct experience? So this is eye consciousness is direct experience. If the eye consciousness direct experience, and the color must be direct experience, Siddhanta school, no, color has no experience. Is material. Material do not have any experience. So the direct experience referring to the subject, not the object. In the Chandrakirti, Chandrakirti and the school, my Prasangika school, direct experience, what you experience directly is direct experience, and through what subject you experience is also direct experience. So when you eat directly, so the egg that you eat directly is what you eat directly is the egg. And how you eat directly with your mouth. So they don't really. Oh, so then they go, no. You don't. The egg do not eat because the egg has no act of eating. So sometimes too knowledgeable is become. So now this person is simply saying is subject to consciousness by consciousness. Now others, moreover, such as the follower of the Dignaga, teaches the direct experience, even other mental consciousness perceiving the blue, and so forth, because of their correspondence with the particular characteristic of the object. Here also, even though that which is cognized, the translator added, cognized as cessation only. So even though correspondent with, there is no contradictions, corresponding with purely negative object, nirvana, there is no contradictions in calling this is the direct experience. So now second other, the person who is trying to, the answer to that question is also similar to the previous one, saying that like the blue that we experience directly, the mainly what you mean by I've seen directly experienced the blue, I have directly experienced the pot, I have directly experienced the chili, so which means your consciousness, tongue consciousness. So it's just referring to the subject, is describing the subject's experience. So there's no contradictions. Having direct experience of the nirvana is not contradict. It's not referring that there is some kind of nirvana is objectively exist. So to this object might respond. So this is the added by the translator. So then the Chandrakirti, the commentary, since you claim that intrinsic identity of thing, such as its non-creations and the so-called direct experience of the cessation of the sufferings, is the object of that direct experience. Now this is more specific. Now we are saying that direct experience of the cessation of the emptiness. So that very emptiness that you experience with nirvana, freedom, so that emptiness that you find nirvana in is direct experience. Direct experience, then such non-existing thing cannot be possibly be known by directly perceiving consciousness. Now he's more specific. Now we are talking about nirvana, that emptiness, that you find nirvana in emptiness. That emptiness is direct experience. This is what you're trying to say, So if this is the case, so then says, so this is like, almost like there is nothing to see, for the essentially the school thing that when we say end of the Tuesday, past of the true state is end of the true state. For them is negation, non-affirmative negations. So it is therefore they says the past do not exist, future do not exist, only the present existence. Because the past means non-existing of something that already passed. Future is non-existing of the something that may come in the future. So the present is existence. So now he is saying that, so you are really actually direct experience is referring to the what you have experienced in nirvana. That is the direct experience. So nirvana is emptiness. Emptiness, there's nothing. There's nothing, and how can you directly experience?
Is it okay to say that, so that this whole belief that anything that can be experienced should be affirmative?
Yes, yeah. Because when you say, but you normally will say, I see something in the sky, or color, or the birds, or something, So when there's nothing, even no cloud, and people say, I did not see anything. So because, the space, that there's nothing to see, It's the emptiness, there's nothing to see, So if there's nothing to see, how can you say direct experience, direct perceived through? Do not claim that direct cessation is the direct. Then how does the truth of cessation come to be directly perceived through merely understanding that cessations? The truth of cessation come to be directly perceived through merely understanding the cessations. So for the mere non-creation of the suffering is not suitable as the essence of thing. Mere non-creations, unarising of the intrinsically no arising of suffering is suitable as the essence of thing. So now saying that if you refrain the cessation itself is direct experience, there is nothing to perceive, there's nothing to know, because there's no knowable object within that, in the face, within the emptiness. So how can you say the direct experience? For the mere non-creation of the suffering is not suitable as the essence of thing. So just no suffering, no birth. If you say just simply no birth, no suffering, so it's not necessarily, is some kind of the essential thing. There's no objective. Yeah. So now we reply, maybe someone who does not accept that mere non-creation of suffering is cessations. Again, Chandrakirti from the beginning, you think that non-creation of suffering when all things are no longer perceived, like vanished magical creations, is not a nirvana. So Chandrakirti says, that is nirvana. That is nirvana. Mere non-creation of suffering is cessations. However, is unable to point out, So nirvana is something that you experience, in the emptiness. However, that nirvana is unable to point out to an intrinsically identifiable cessations that would be a viable alternative. So, but Chandrakirti says, we accept, we accept the path of the true state, but we cannot say the path of the true state is something, independently identifiable, alternative object. The path of the true state is only understood with relation to the true state. The coming of the future is only it can understand to be existing with relation to the present. So when we say nirvana, so in the experience of the direct nirvana, that particular subject that is only focusing on the emptiness may not be seeing any knowable object other than emptiness, but that emptiness that is directly perceived by the wisdom, and that wisdom is, how's that? Particularly in the experience the cessation only. That does not mean that cessation could exist independent unit from the samsara. Like there is no the past of the two states, the independent from the two state. There is no morning, the independent from the night. Right? To the mere non-creations of sufferings, if further you claim that undefiled cognition cessations. Again, there's, so this Chandrakirti, the Prasangika school, is only that part. Someone who does not accept that mere non-creation of suffering is cessations, however, is unable to point out alternatively identifiable cessation that would be viable alternatives to the mere non-creation of the suffering. If furthermore you claim that undefined cognitions of cessation, undefined cognition of cessation is direct experience, then since this too would be just like that cognition that conforms to its negative object, then by your own argument, this would not be direct experience. So now this is saying that, but you can still say in subjects that you can explain a lot. The subject that experience nirvana is undefiled, unconceptual, non-conceptual, is a direct experience. How many times you say, yes, it is sensible, it is understandable, but when it comes to the object that you are seeing the direct experience, so what is there to experience directly? Questions remains the same. Because own negation would not be direct experience. If the understanding of the cessation were direct experience, by that the consciousness would thereby instantly cease as well. So consciousness, according to your own treatises on the nature of direct experience, the general cognition of the pot is not accepted as the direct experience. Then just as the negation of the cognition of such pot would not be suitable as a direct experience. So like the cognition such as blue, so would the cognition of the cessation also not be. Hence, any kind of experience of the mere object, even without presumptions of being singular object, unmixed. So, unmixed kind of conceptual understanding produced from the teaching of the, So this is kind of saying that, caution remained always the same, So how many times is you cannot say the nirvana is directly experienced by, arhat mind, right? Direct experience. So the question here is the main point is there's some kind of nirvana that is directly experienced by the consciousness. Therefore, the individual become the arhat. So if you keep explaining how the consciousness can experience directly, how can consciousness be direct experience, is not going to answer. The question remains the same, because the question is, if the emptiness, in the emptiness, there is nothing, there's no knowable object, there's no conventional reality. So if this is, if you say this is direct experience, so there's nothing to experience in the emptiness, but you still says conscious cessation is direct experience by the arhat's mind. So how can that cessation of the nirvana become the direct experience? So, and then also they're saying that according to the Sodalika school, Dignaga and Dharmakirtis, and you always say that, even the blue in the pot is not direct experience. The consciousness that directly experiencing the blue in the pot is the direct experience. Probably you don't have any, maybe you may have never thought about object can be a direct experience. So you can always explain the subject is direct experience or not. So main thing is the unmixed with any kind of a conceptual understanding. So it's kind of mediations. It's not. You're always describing that the consciousness is conceptual, or consciousness is engaging object through imagination or not. So if the consciousness is not engaging the object through the imaginations, is not the subject, the consciousness, not the conceptualization, then it is the direct experience, right? Teaching of the masters yogi is even that would not be tenable, as cessations. And then there is direct experience of the clairvoyance. There's the direct experience of the clairvoyance of the air consciousness, the eye consciousness. So if you, think of those clairvoyance, so there is some kind of object, something that other than the object, subject side. There's some kind of object. So these are always, you say, direct experience is not the same here. We are saying the cessation is directly experienced. Cessation itself is direct experience of the arhat. So this is not the same. And how many times I have directly experienced the coffee, I directly experienced the color or sound or any kind of things. It is not the same when the arhat experiencing directly the nirvana. So, in a substantial phenomena, conditional, object like color, so when you directly experience, you can directly experience. There is no you that is, inseparable. There's no you become inseparable with color, So you just simply because you are not conceptualizing, you're just seeing that through your eye consciousness. Just that mean. So it's simply not because you are not imagining, you're seeing it, therefore it's a direct experience. So nirvana experience is not like something that you have experienced something not through the conceptualizations. It's not only that, it is your consciousness inseparable, become one with the object. So regarding existing of things, particular characteristic, it is well known that when one contemplates is the universal characteristics, an intuition born of contemplations. So this is the same thing, Now, there are many different school of thoughts masters who is trying to explain what is the real kind of, idea, what is the real concept of that, direct experience of the nirvana. So, all the Siddhantika school masters, when they try to explain the direct experience of nirvana, is always they say, oh, it's not conceptual, it is not through the imaginations, or it is not perceptual. So this is kind of a long answer, many answer, but never answer that get to the point.
Would the different school masters have a different kind of experience completely, or they similar experience, but they just cannot understand what they experienced correctly, so they can explain?
Yeah, this is all like, we are all like in the, all the hungry peoples together, and some are more, talented to create the image of many kind of different kind of foods. So all are hungry. So this is like, all the schools like that, they really don't really exactly understand what is the Dharma that we take refuge. They do not know the exact meaning, but they try to understand, and they project through their perceptions, and based on their perceptions, they explain what is the direct experience of the nirvana. So they cannot go, to the real point, because everything they're trying to explain is based on their perception. So, the question here is, if you don't really understand exact meaning of the emptiness and the purpose of the emptiness, the nature of the emptiness, there's always so many arguments, disputations. It's endless. So these are kind of like a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, There's no correct understanding. So this is the artificial intelligence, So now trying to explain something through artificial intelligence. So Chandrakirti, Nagarjuna's, so they, they kind of understands the reality, how, because they understand the reality as it is, so therefore they can, they can find a way to explain things, without, going against to the reality, without, mixing with their perceptions. Because the reality is not easy, because everyone, very smart, intelligent people, they kind of use their best of their knowledge to analyze on things. So the problem comes when they, through their analysis, when they find something, they start to give the name, and that is also they kind of find there's a different that you find. It is something, no one has found. It is, and no one has found it. You found it means no one has yet. No one. It was something new. So if something is new means it is different from what you have experienced. So then this become, how kind of, how profound, how settled you understand that every meaning become intrinsic, independent form. So I think, so I'm just assuming that from the neurological point of view, they have so many things to explain, descriptions, and the physics, they have more understanding, they say. And when it comes to quantum, they says, there's nothing, possible to understand. Before you understand everything, now your wisdom become more settled, and you say, now there's nothing to understand. If you say understanding, which means you're kind of, trapped in your own presumptions. So pure from the informations, the kind of, wisdom exercise. It's kind of enrich your, knowledge and informations, but it's not necessarily can, you have developed some kind of the correct understanding. Chanju semjo rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju jeba nyamba, beba nya, kone kondo peba. Donye tawa rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju jeba nyamba, beba nya, kone kondo peba. Pama semja tamje dedan tenju jinge ro tamje tado tonga. Chanju semba kanda sushupe dedan kunje, molom jubje beche. Karera beko beche manzo, penda dewa molu jube. Jere sama tenze jaso jinshebe, sede bado tenju beche.
May the precious body mind not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land and surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, O powerful Intrinsic Tenzin Gyatso. Remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you.